This is Pat McDonald, your host for Vote for Vermont, where our tagline is listening beyond the soundbites. As you can tell, we're back in the studio. It's July 1st, and we're very glad to be home. My guest today is a very special woman who I've known for quite a while, June Heston, who is a Democratic candidate for State Senate in Chittenden County. God bless you.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you.
It's great.
It's
And
great to be here.
we're going to be doing another show after this one with June, which I would encourage you to watch. It's about her husband, Mike Heston, who is a brigadier general. And I'm sure you've read about what happened with Mike and his cancer, and it came from the burn pits that the military uses overseas. And I know you will find that to be a fantastic and fascinating session on the video, so stay tuned. June, let's talk a little bit about yourself and your decision to run for Chittenden, because there's like 15 different folks running.
There are 13 Democrats.
Yeah.
So it's a crowded race for sure. And so I did a lot of soul searching and talking to current reps and senators before I made the decision. Yeah. And I think it comes down to two things. My parents and my husband, Mike. I grew up in Vermont, in rural central Vermont in Graniteville, on a farm to parents who both were veterans. They both served in World War II. They met in New Guinea, got married in New Guinea, and moved back here. My mom was a WAC, and they moved back here, and we grew up in the house that my father grew up in. I went to college here and went to Vermont College of Norwich and then went to St. Michael's. Met my husband, Mike, here. He was a trooper, a Vermont State Trooper, and he served in the Vermont Army National Guard. And so between the two of us, we were both working in service. And I feel like those two things are really why I decided that I wanted to serve.
That's great. So you said 13 Democrats,
13
and
Democrats
2
and 2 Republicans.
You have to go to a primary, obviously.
Yes.
How are you getting your name out there? Because the primary is a little around the corner right now.
Yes, it is around the corner, and there's a lot of work to be done, and definitely an uphill climb in this world of COVID. I'm doing what everybody else is doing and getting on social media, doing mailings, getting on the phone, trying to do Zoom meetings. So what everybody else is doing. And because I've spent my career working in nonprofits, I don't have the visibility. I haven't spent time telling people who June Heston is, and I now need to do that and talk a little bit about my experience running 3 nonprofits. And
well, explain what those nonprofits are. I think I can name them. But
yes, I started my career in higher ed administration, but then I went to the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and I was there for almost 11 years as the CEO. And from there, I went to Vermont Family Network, and working with children who have some sort of special need. It could be developmental, it could be intellectual, could be physical. And then I went to the Chill Foundation, which is Burton Snowboard's nonprofit.
Oh, yes, right.
It's an international nonprofit working with youth who are underserved, who were teaching how to build life skills through board sports.
Did I read Camp Tecumseh somewhere in there?
Yes, I didn't work at Camp Tecumseh. I have been the longest standing volunteer for camp.
Good for you.
Yeah, 36 years.
That's how you know Patty Lewis.
Yes.
Because she always talked about you and Mike. So.
I've been there 36 years.
That's great. So on your website, which is very nice, it's a very unique website. I like it.
Thank you.
It's much different than everybody else's.
Yes, it is.
It's a good one.
Thank you.
So you have 3 major priorities, which I'd like you to talk about. One is the economy and small business. The second is the environment, and then third is social justice, which has got a lot of attention these days.
Yes, it has gotten a lot of attention and needed attention. So I believe that we have a lot of work to do. If we had issues prior to COVID with affordable housing, which we did, the issues are bigger. We know that because of unemployment. When we have issues of food insecurity, those issues are bigger. So I believe everybody's first priority is going to have to be rebuilding the economy. And looking at what we need to do in order to recover from this. It's not going to be a short-term fix.
No.
We've got a lot of work to do, and we don't even know all the questions to ask, much less the answers to
Right,
those questions. So I think we're going to have to do a lot of listening to figure out how we're going to get there, how we're going to recover.
Food insecurity drives me crazy in the state just because we are an agricultural state. The statistics are 1 out of every 4 Vermonters suffers from food insecurity. And you look at the McMansion house and you think, oh, they don't have any problems. But they do. And the first thing that they cut back on is food, because you can't cut back on electricity and the rent or the mortgage. So 1 out of 4, that's just staggering to me.
Yes, and I grew up in poverty. We got free hot lunch, and I didn't know we were poor. I thought we were lucky. It wasn't until I was about 12 when my parents bought my twin sister and I bikes for our birthday, and I remember worrying how they would have paid for those because I knew that they didn't have a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was interesting that if you're in seclusion with everybody else, that you're really, who are you doing Zoom meetings with and stuff? Just inviting people to meet you?
Yes, inviting
cool.
people to meet me, the people who've signed up on my website, and
that's good.
yes.
Because you've certainly been around. I think they know your name, and certainly with Michael, that's sadly brought some attention.
Right. Well, and the other issues that I'm really feeling passionate about is our environment, because we know that climate change is real, and we know we need to do something about it. We're already behind on trying to recover from climate pollution. So that is a passion of mine, and then it's on everybody's agenda, as it should be. Social justice. We have to be part of the conversation for inclusion and diversity in Vermont.
Right. I don't know if you've met the woman that the governor
I haven't,
hired.
Suzanne.
I did a show with her. She will fix it.
Good.
She's got the best attitude and a lot of passion, a lot of drive, and I think she's going to be very successful to help us all out, because
Great.
She explains things rather than get mad at me or anybody because I feel a certain way.
Right.
She'll take the time to explain and change your mind, which I think is a very healthy way to go.
I think education
none of that yelling
is
stuff.
Yeah, and we all need to educate ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. And you'd be surprised unconsciously, I think.
Right.
A lot of people aren't racist in this trick, they just don't know, and you have to educate them.
Right.
That's good. So when you go, if you get to win, you will be in a legislature that will be faced with all kinds of dandy things, like a big hole in the budget. In 2022 is when they're expecting, 2021 is when they're expecting it all to hit. We can get through this year okay, but next year is going to be a killer.
Right.
Have you thought about what you're willing to do from a budget perspective, from maybe increasing revenues or stop spending? Have you thought about that?
Yes, I've thought a lot about it, and I really believe that I don't have the answers. I don't know how we can have the answers yet. We don't really know what the federal government is going to continue to do. We don't know if they're going to change some of the rules they've set for money we've already gotten. So I think that everyone who gets elected needs to enter 2021 with an open mind and focused on collaboration to make it happen, because collaboration is the only thing that's going to work. We really do need to work together, and nobody knows the answers. Nobody's been here before, so we just have to start.
My take is it hasn't been collaborative here in a couple of years. When I served in the legislature, it was, and then after that, it just sort of took a nosedive. But I think these numbers are going to be so staggering next year that they won't have any choice but to work together. And I think we're going to see a turnaround of attitude in the State House, because there's no other way.
Right.
You have to get together and fix it. You can't sit there arguing on the floor.
Right. And this isn't just going to be a 2021 issue. This is a long-term issue that we are going to need to continue the conversation for who knows how long, because we haven't been here before. So unless we're working together, we're not going to accomplish what we want to accomplish.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. So I gave you a list of topics that were in the last biennium, 2019 to 2020, and I just asked, besides the priorities that you already talked about, if you could just pick two things out of that list to talk about of something that might be of interest to you. And we're going to put the list on the
Great.
video so people can see. I hope my memory is good. I hope I didn't leave anything out.
Well, so many I'm interested in,
Yeah.
but what pops out to me, because it's a big conversation right now, is paid family leave. Now, I am a big advocate for small businesses. I just started my own small business doing nonprofit consulting last year, and I know that offering paid family leave could be stressful on the budget
Right.
for many small companies. But the reason I think that it's something that we need to look at and consider and find a way to pay for is because I have been a person who's had to use family leave. When Mike was sick, I'm not sure how I would have done it if my employer didn't allow me to go with Mike to treatment, which was in Boston, and we'd be
Right.
gone for a week at a time. And they paid family leave.
Wow.
And I will tell you that was a huge difference in feeling like I did everything I could for Mike, and being involved with Camp Tecumseh for so long. I know families and parents who are struggling to, do they stay at work or do they go to the hospital with their child? That's not a decision they want to have to make.
Right.
And it's not an easy decision, but oftentimes they have to choose work because they've used up their sick time. So seeing how impactful that can be to have that time. First of all, you gain an employee who is very committed to that organization because what you're doing for them.
That's great. That's very impressive. That's good. I hadn't really thought about the taking care of a loved one part of it.
It is
speaking of
bigger
small
than
business,
parent
I get
leave.
worried that if you have to pay, what's it, $10.50 now, I think, the minimum wage. But if you give, it's just a matter of costing for the small business. It's just
Right.
a lot of cost.
Right. It is a big cost. And how can we think creatively so that that burden isn't necessarily, because I ran 3 nonprofits, and if you told me I had to do that as a CEO, I'd be like, oh gosh, how are we going to do that and get done what we need to get done? So I feel that part of it too. So I want to think about creative ways of how do we pay for this, but make it happen. Because the second piece is that I want to focus on is workforce development. I believe if this is something that we can do in Vermont, we need to get people back to Vermont. We need to keep people here in Vermont who are graduating from college. We need to there are a lot of seniors who still want to work, or they need to work just a little bit to make ends meet. This providing a benefit for those parents who feel like, well, we can go to Vermont and make it work if we have that paid family leave.
That's interesting. Very nice. Because I know that was a big issue in the legislature. Because I know whenever we've had people absent, and I always have to hire somebody to take their place or bring somebody in a temp or something, because you can't put it on the other employees because they've got their hands full too. So it's an expense, but maybe you're right. And I think your being able to take care of Mike may have, in some cases, reduced the strain on home health and hospice people or people that would otherwise offer services. So I think you sound like you know how you're going to be in touch with your constituents when you get out there.
Yes, I think, initially it's still going to be digital, but I hope we get to the point where we can have face-to-face conversations and hear what people have to say, because I know I have a lot to learn, and the constituents are who I'm going to learn it from.
Right. Now, next go-round, they're not going to have the 6 senators.
Right.
And it's all of Chittenden County. That's a heck of a lot of doors to knock on. They're breaking it up into 6 components, I believe.
I know it's going to be reapportioned, and the plan is still in the works. I guess the next legislature will work on that. But yes, this is a big territory for sure.
And not only because they do have a little cabal going on in the State House when they all vote together. But we'll see, because I do think you would get to know people better if you had a smaller.
I think so too. I think it's
group.
hard.
Yeah, it's hard. Anyway, so why do you think you are the best candidate for the job?
Well, I have never been a person to say I'm the best at anything, but I do believe that I bring to the table real life experience. I've spent my career working with folks who have one need or another, and with Make-A-Wish, working with families who are challenged by the healthcare system, and with Camp Tecumseh at the Chill Foundation, I worked with underserved and at-risk youth across North America, right. and I really got to understand some of the issues that may not exist on the scale here that they do elsewhere, but it brings attention. Well, if homelessness is an issue there, what does it look like here? So professionally, and then starting my own business, I kind of understand the struggles of being a small business owner. Right. But more than that, I feel like my personal challenges have probably created the person that will be effective in Montpelier. I grew up in poverty, as I mentioned. I put myself through college. Mike and I both worked in the service industry. We didn't make a lot of money. I remember being in a position where I had to figure out which bill I was going to pay because I couldn't pay both of them. Mike deployed 3 times to Afghanistan, and I was, taking care of the kids by myself. I wouldn't say I was single parenting because there were still 2 incomes coming in, but it is, a challenge when you're trying to manage all of this and worrying about your husband overseas. My son was diagnosed early on with a learning disability and a gross motor and fine motor delay, so we had to navigate the education system. Okay. With him being on an IEP, and then when he got to high school and college, a 504 plan, knowing how to get the services he needed in order to succeed in school was challenging, and I bring that experience. Right. And then, starting my own business, and I just feel like I bring a lot of different life experiences, and the healthcare thing with navigating that with Mike. I don't know how people who have no insurance or have insurance that has a high deductible, right? How they manage it, because we had good insurance and it was still challenging because you often have to make phone calls to the insurance company saying, why isn't this paid for? So,
I had an experience like that recently. Doctor just gave me a prescription, and I went and I found out it was $400 a month. I said, I went back to the doctor. I said, I can't take this. And then I was mad because I thought if my mother got that, she would have paid it because you can't go against the doctor. The doctor said you have to take it. So my mother would have spent $400, never would have told us, and would have done without. I just think it's staggering, and he gave me something else. So there you go.
What I've learned is you need to question everything. Yeah. And Mike's treatment, when he started treatment in Boston, one treatment, chemotherapy treatment, was $35,000. Wow. And so there are people who have to choose between life and death. Right. Exactly. And that's not okay. Yeah. No. I honestly don't know where we are with healthcare anymore. We've got the Green Mountain Care Board, but they're not putting anything out to really give us a sense of where we are and how is this all working. Is it saving money? Is it charging more, costing more? I don't get a sense for what they're doing. I think that's people would like to know that. I wish they'd be much more transparent in what they do. Yeah, I think our healthcare system is really more of a sick care system, and we need to be a healthcare system. It's reactive and it's not proactive. Yes, we need to be more proactive because being more proactive is less expensive. Right, exactly. So you've got Burlington, and Chittenden County takes in what? Because I was trying to think about that the other day, and I thought that's a lot of shoe walking. Yes. Well, and it's most of Chittenden County, but Huntington, Moncton are part of Addison area for the district. Right. So it's all the surrounding small rural towns like Milton and Underhill and Jericho, and so it's a pretty wide area as well. Yeah. I have my work cut out for me.
You do, because
yeah.
what is it, August 11th?
It's August
11th,
11th, yes, yes.
Well, we hope this show will help you a little bit. Is there anything else you want to talk about, maybe from the list that, because you mentioned education, could I tap your brain a little bit on Act 46 and what you think of that?
Yes, I think that it, and I don't know the real details. What I do know is that it was established to really create efficiencies and equity in education, and that's what we need. I have a niece who grew up many years ago in a very small town, and she got to 6th grade and couldn't read. And so her parents put her in a private school. Well, that school didn't have the money to support at the time, it wasn't necessarily special educators, it was teachers' aides or whatever it was.
Right.
We really do need to find a way to create efficiencies. And I think by looking at how to reduce the administrative side of things makes sense, and put those resources into the students. And we do have one of the highest rates of what we pay per student. But are we getting what we're paying for? And so I think that needs to be looked at. But I absolutely think having school mergers is a good idea. I also understand that if you went to that small little school in town, that's really hard for you to say, my kids aren't going to be able to go there, or my kids have to get on a bus for an hour. I don't want my kids on a bus for an hour either. So I think we have to be very strategic in how we do that merging, but I do think that because we're one of the highest in what we put per pupil, we need to look at it and see, can we be doing this differently and getting the students what they need so that they succeed in school.
I was told a while ago when you said that they weren't ready to read, when they graduate from high school and go to tech ed, VTC has to spend the first couple of months bringing these kids up to a level where they can start teaching technical stuff. So to me, if you got them ready at high school level, they hit the ground running at VTC, maybe you could chop off, maybe it's 1.5 years instead of 2 years, because they're spending so much time in the beginning of the session to get the kids up to speed. That's ridiculous.
Right.
They should be meeting their standards at high school level.
Right, so, they absolutely should be, yes.
Yeah, I'm hoping that I'd like to see them really stress using technology. You know, one teacher to teach something special, a language of sorts, French, and then she could use the Zoom or whatever else we're using these days to reach out and meet other kids and have them learn by that.
Yeah, and I think the pandemic it sort of forced us to be creative, and now we need to look at how we can use what we've learned from this and as an advantage of how can we evaluate how we've been doing and what we've been doing and how we had to change that and what worked and how do we keep that.
Right, that's excellent. So we just have a few minutes left. Would you like to talk a little bit about why me? Or why you?
Yes. Yeah. Well, you know, I think a lot of people have asked me that, and I spent a lot of time saying to myself, you know, why me? Why would I do this? Right. I feel like after having the experience with Mike and then the legislature putting a bill forward to talk about the burn pit, the effects of burn pits overseas, I feel like that was sort of the impetus to say, okay, you know, I didn't initiate that legislation. Right. Senator White did. Yeah. And so I thought, you know, that one constituent went to one senator that then created this legislation that will make a difference in people's lives. And so that was very impactful to me. And so I thought, you know what, I'm going to do this. My why is you, and my why is your kids or your grandkids or parents, because, you know, I've spent my life in service, and now I feel like we have so much work to do, and I didn't make a final decision until after COVID hit, and knowing it was going to be hard work, I said, somebody has to do it. And if not me, who? And if not now, when? And so that's why I stepped up.
I don't think people in the state realize how lucky they are. Legislators are accessible, and it only takes one legislator, and you can get something done like you did. We had, when I was in motor vehicles, there was one guy who hated a bill, hated a rule that in truth shouldn't have been there. He took that and went up and worked with Dick Mazza. Done. One person went to one legislator, and it was done. So that doesn't happen in other states. They're pretty distant. It's hard to get to see them.
Right.
Here you see them in the corner store having coffee and walking around town or whatever. So we're very lucky here.
I remember going to second grade and milk, the price of a milk carton was 5 cents. The previous year it was 2 cents. And I went home and said something to my mother, and she said, write a letter to the governor. And so I wrote a letter to Governor Davis, and the price of milk went down. And so
See?
I think it only went down 1 cent, but it did go down.
There you go. He was listening.
Yes, he was.
I wish I had known him. I've heard a lot of great stories about him. I came when Madeline Kuhn was just finishing up her tenure.
Oh,
so
yes,
I sort of came a little late after the fact. Anyway, June, I wish you a lot of luck.
Thank you so much.
Get out there and
I'm going to do it.
Do it. That's great. Good. Thank you. It was
Thank you.
a pleasure to have you on the show. We'll see you next week. And in the meantime, keep listening beyond the sound bites.